So we got some big news today about IGN. Apparently, a lot of the IGN staff is going on strike because of harassment allegations that was made against one of its editors, Vince Ingentio. I definitely butchered his last name, but whatever. It's not relevant. Now, we all know about the sexual allegations that have been running rampant on pretty much every industry you can think of. Hollywood's the big one. Of course, politics is another one. They accused Trump of sexual assault. It was like 20 women or something like that came forward and accused Trump of doing whatever to them. They say Trump did all this shit to them 40 years ago, and they waited until October of an election year to come forward. Very strange, right? Same thing with Roy Moore, the Republican nominee for Senate in Alabama to fill Jeff Sessions' vacancy after he became the Attorney General. And the same exact thing happened. They waited until the election to come forward over incidents that happened 40 years ago, that allegedly happened 40 years ago. I'm sorry. I just find that very, very, very suspicious that they wait 40 years, and not just at any moment, but when they're running a political campaign. And at least when it comes to Trump and Roy Moore, I'm not saying this is any relation to IGN, but at least when it comes to Trump and Roy Moore's allegations against them, anybody with half a brain would realize that there's definitely a lot of political motivation behind those allegations specifically, which does create a lot of problems because if people are making false accusations, which I do think a good chunk of these recent allegations that have been coming out against people have been fabricated or just completely made up, which is bad because then actual victims suffer as a result of this because everyone's just making allegations left and right. Somebody could theoretically make sexual allegations against me tomorrow. I don't even have to have met this person. I don't need to have any conversation with this person ever in my life or even have any or done anything sexual with them at all. Tomorrow, some random girl can come out and say that I sexually assaulted them, raped them, harassed them, did whatever without having any sort of proof. Now, this is a very tricky situation with these accusations against people because on one hand, someone can make a sexual assault claim against somebody, and because they claim that this happened, we take their word for it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true. Do you guys honestly believe that every allegation that's been made against anybody, all of them have been true? All of them. Each and every one of them has been true. And our justice system says that you are innocent until proven guilty. The problem with sexual assault is that it's difficult to prove. I'm very much aware of this, which is why this situation is very difficult to deal with. It's probably one of the most difficult situations to approach because, like I said, on one hand, you can be falsely accusing somebody of something that they didn't necessarily do. But then, on the flip side, you can just not take somebody's word for it, and it probably actually happened. So it's kind of like flip a coin, you know what I mean? There are plenty of wrong ways to deal with these situations and not too many right ones. And this situation has been a real issue in politics, in Hollywood especially, and also in the gaming industry. There are plenty of companies where sexual assault allegations have been made against fellow employees. And I kind of have a hunch that the next big industry that's probably going to be dealing with these allegations might be the wrestling industry, WWE. I feel like they might have some problems coming up, which, there's no actual indication that it's happening, but if every other industry is having it happening, I think wrestling is probably going to be next. Because there are a lot of female wrestlers and plenty of other women that work with WWE that might be a thing that might happen in the future, so might have to look out for that too. And the same thing can also happen with the NFL. Maybe cheerleaders can accuse football players of doing whatever to them. Or just name any industry that has a large female presence in it. You're going to have an instance where these allegations are going to be made. Because I think what's been going on in Hollywood has been a catalyst for all this other shit to happen. Which brings me to IGN. A woman by the name of Callie Plagg, probably another last name that I butchered, but she made sexual harassment allegations against that editor that I talked about before. This comes after the allegations against Harvey Weinstein, which again is definitely a catalyst for all these other accusations to come after Kevin Spacey, George Takei, Louis C.K., the list goes on and on and on. And she made a lot of accusations against this man, which could very well be true, but again, which could also not be true. Human Resources claims that she was partly responsible for what happened, when she went to Human Resources to deal with the situation, because the situation happened last year in 2016. When she went to HR, apparently the exact quote was that she was an equal participant in inappropriate flirtation, and that she also acted inappropriately as well. So when it comes to situations where there's no evidence, where there's nothing like that, and if I myself wasn't a witness to whatever allegedly happened, then I really honestly have nothing to say about that. So I'm not really trying to focus on the allegations themselves. You can spend hours speculating on whether or not there's any substance to these allegations or not, whether it's true or not, whether it's BS or not, is really anybody's guess. The more interesting part of the story is that IGN workers are going on strike because of IGN's initial refusal to make a statement on this situation. They eventually did after a while. Let me see if I could pull up the statement that they made. This was hours after this started gaining traction. Let's see here. So they did make a statement. The editorial staff of IGN released a group statement saying, quote, IGN has failed 2 of its female employees, and that when harassment was reported, the women did not get the respect and care that they deserved as IGN employees and as people. So no matter what side you are on this issue, whether you believe that it happened or believe it didn't happen, I think we could all agree that that statement that was made was nothing but PR bullshit. If it did actually happen, they wouldn't really be sorry because they waited until it became a big story for them to comment on it, which usually whenever that happens, if people say, oh, I'm so sorry that this happened after it becomes a big story, they never genuinely mean it. I'm sure anybody with half a brain knows that. But it did get so bad that there was no episode of The Daily Fix today. So when it comes to the IGN staff going on strike, I really don't give a shit 6 ways from Sunday, and I'm going to tell you why. Nothing would benefit the gaming industry more than for all these websites to fail, to suffer, to hopefully shut down, because they have absolutely no integrity these days. These are supposed to be gaming journalists. They're supposed to cover the gaming industry, yet they have to constantly promote this left-wing social justice agenda. And hey, if you're a left-winger, if you believe in all these social justice movements, you believe in whatever, that's not a problem with me. What's a problem with me is you trying to shove those ideas down everybody else's throats, because that's exactly what they have done. They've done it with Gamergate, which, by the way, was the original fake news movement. The way Gamergate started was basically people calling out these gaming news websites for their BS reporting and clear political bias that they've shown in their reportings. And even Gamergate aside, IGN has always had no integrity with their game reviews. Go on Metacritic, look up any game you can think of, and you always see that there is a huge disconnect between the media and the users. And when that happens, you know that there's something corrupt with these organizations. For example, giving Infinite Warfare a 9 out of 10, when anybody who has played that game knows that it's nowhere near a 9 out of 10. A 6 out of 10 would be generous for that pile of garbage. And this is coming from someone that was a diehard Call of Duty fan for many, many, many years. But specifically regarding the sexual allegations, it matters very little to me what happens going forward. If they never come back from their strike, that's fine by me. I'm sure a lot of the people that left are part of the problem of why video game journalism is gone down the shitter. So if they leave, that's fine. If they quit, that's fine. But at the same time, they made their bed and they got to lie in it. If any of these people that quit their job from IGN because of these allegations ever in their lives complain about struggling to pay their bills, well, that's all on you. Being a social justice hero is great and all, but after a while you realize that having food on your table and a roof over your head and not worrying about getting an eviction notice tomorrow is an even better feeling. And it's not like these people that quit are alleged victims of sexual harassment, because then if they quit their job in that instance, then that would be okay. But these people don't know what happened. They have nothing at all to do with this situation, but they want to be heroes. They want to make a statement. That's fine. But if it turns around and bites you in the ass, don't complain. That's all I got to say about that. I just think people protesting a corrupt organization like IGN over an incident that they have absolutely nothing to do with, that they're not a witness to, that they don't know any of the circumstances surrounding it, I think that's a lot less admirable than if people took a real stand against IGN. Reporters with actual integrity going on strike because of IGN's dishonest reporting. Now, that would be a lot more admirable to me.